The poo was gonna hit the fan moment happened around 3 o'clock when we got this text. Hello preparedness people, and welcome back to the Biggs Prep. My name is Cynthia, and today we're gonna talk about my experience with Category 4, Category 5 Hurricane Irma in 2017. So if you're ready, press the like button and let's get right into it. Here's a little map to show you where I actually am. I am east of Ocala, north of the Villages, and south of Gainesville, Florida. In 2017, Mr. Biggs and myself lived in this tiny house. It's a small mobile home. It's from the 1970s, and it is a great, great house. My older son currently lives there, but at the time it was just Mr. Biggs and myself. We shared our tiny house with Cookie Lou, Banjo, our tricolor hound dog, and Dixie, the brown dog. We also had 20 to 25 chickens in the yard. This was the only picture I could find of the old chicken pen. It did have a metal roof on it when Hurricane Irma came over. Here's two quick pictures of the kitchen area and also the dining room area. This was the main living area for pretty much everybody in the house. Set things up, the summer before Hurricane Irma had been very, very hot. There were thunderstorms every day. There was water pooling in places where water did not normally congregate. It was extremely, extremely hot. The water temperature was very unusually warm. These pictures are from us taking the Jeep out, and they are time-stamped from my Facebook. The ground was already saturated prior to the hurricane coming. September 4th, 2017 was Labor Day. There was no work that day, and we had no idea really. There was some tropical juiciness going on, but not really what we thought was going to turn into a Category 4, Category 5 hurricane. So we spent Labor Day weekend just chilling and hanging out with our kids, our dogs, and doing some random stuff around the property. September 5th, Mr. Biggs and I topped up the gas tank and went to work. There was that sort of buzz pre-storm in the air where maybe something might happen, maybe something might not. We are what's known as a receiver county. Receiver counties take in people who are evacuating from hurricanes. We also take their animals. A lot of the larger horse farms will open up and take people's animals. The livestock pavilion in Ocala will open and house people's animals during the storms. This means that the locals know to gas up and get all of their supplies way before those people start coming in. The hotel rooms go really quickly. Everything goes super fast. There was no World Equestrian Center back then, so people were just starting to get ready here in the local area, and work went on a full day as usual, Tuesday, September 5th. This picture I snagged from my Facebook during Hurricane Irma. I had stopped at the store on Tuesday morning to get a couple of things, and I shot this picture of the water supply. Who knew that even back then I had the makings of a YouTuber? Wednesday. September 6th was Wednesday, and there was no gas. There was no supplies. There was no nothing. People knew that there was a big storm coming, and they were getting ready. My manager at the doctor's office where I worked at the time called me and said, "Cynthia, please do not come to work." That was Tuesday night. "I want you to stay home and be able to watch your property." Mr. Biggs is very protective over me, and she said she knew that she would feel better and everyone would feel better if I stayed home that day, and I was glad for it.
Hurricane Irma, still a major Category 5, very little change in intensity. In fact, the winds have sustained themselves in excess of 185 miles sustained for over 24 hours now, longer than any other hurricane on record in the Atlantic. This storm means business with gusts upwards of 225 miles per hour.
The news reports were getting super scary, and images from the storm hitting down below Florida showed that the storm was capable of complete devastation. Because there was no gas, and I do have a 30 to 40 minute drive into work at that time, it was a good idea for everybody just to stay home. She and one other person came into the office. The doctor's office had canceled everyone, and people were canceling like mad even on that Tuesday when we went back to work. So there really wasn't a whole lot of work to do. I'm sitting on the steps of the old house, and now it's Thursday, September 7th. There's been no work for 2 days. Wednesday, I had the whole house clean. I had a crochet project started, and things are starting to get serious. The cone of uncertainty has just started to firm up. We're getting ready, and holy crap, Mr. Biggs worked late because they had a big construction project and they had to at least get it dried in before the storm came and get the inspector to look at it to make sure that the roof panels did not fly off, because at that time he was a construction foreman. And it was a very long, very stressful day, pinned to the news, pinned to the internet, waiting for the NOAA updates. Very, very stressful. I made my last trip for gas to Kelly's Country Store and also went to the Winn-Dixie just to kind of see what's going on. Back then I was not a YouTuber and I did not think to get any footage of that, but I do remember the shelves just being wiped out and not a lot of people on the road because there was no gas and everyone was trying to conserve it. On Thursday, I remember being very nervous and scared. I took this whole mess of yarn and unwound it. I organized all of my yarn in the back room by color, and I drank lots of this kava stress relief tea all day long. And now it's Friday, September 8th. Mr. Biggs is off work for the day. I'm off work for the day. No one is going anywhere because the locals were told to stay off the roads and make room for people who were trying to evacuate and get to safety. So we start getting the shed ready. Back in 2015, we purchased this shed and it is rated for a Category 4 hurricane. We did this on purpose because at that time we did not own the big house way over there. We just had the little house and we were very concerned that if we did have a hurricane, that our 1970s mobile home was not rated for that much wind, and we are not ones to evacuate. If you feel you need to evacuate, that is fine for you, but we do not evacuate. I mean, I've never evacuated and I've been here since 1993. So we had this shed delivered to our house. It is rated for a Category 4, like I said, and it is tied down properly, inspected by the county and all that stuff. This is our hurricane bug out plan in 2017. Back then there was shelving in the middle here. We shoved the shelving over and we had an air mattress here. Cookie Lou slept in here with us and both of the dogs. It was a very restless evening. We had the AC here and there's a little roof over so we could put our generator there. It was a very uncomfortable few nights of sleep here in the shed, but we at least had some air conditioning. We had a fan in here and we were safe, and that was the number one thing. I don't know how well you can see them back there, but there's two big blue 55-gallon barrels. Those got filled up with water for the animals and for us. I made pizza that night for dinner and tried to use up all the things that were in the refrigerator. We also set up our outdoor kitchen on the porch of the tiny house. We have this camp stove. We still have this today. I love that thing. And we had the grill ready to go, an outdoor prep area so that we did not have to heat up the house. And now is Saturday, September 9th. The poo is going to hit the fan moment happened around 3 o'clock when we got this text. Having lived here since 1993, I've never seen anything like this text. Sunday, September 10th at 3 p.m. Due to potential for high winds, if winds exceed 45 miles an hour, first responders will not be coming. Travel restrictions in Marion County due to Hurricane Irma. Residents will not be permitted to travel on certain bridges if high winds occur, including the main bridge out of the forest. I made us a fantastic breakfast of bacon and pancakes. Then I baked a double batch of chocolate chip cookies. Anytime there's a hurricane, I make a huge batch of chocolate chip cookies. They don't require refrigeration and they're an easy snack. Also, the fat and sugar combination is very helpful to the brain when it's under stress. On Saturday, the boys stopped in for a late breakfast, early lunch. That time, Matthew had his own camper on a piece of land and Nathan was staying with him part-time. I was so glad to see them. I actually begged both of them to stay with me for the storm. Since they were both adults at that time, I had to let them go. It was probably one of the scarier moments I had had in parenting up until that point. But they get it from their mama, headstrong, and you know, they got this. And I would not see them again until Monday. Monday, my son came and helped us with the tree work after the storm. and his brother was just fine. He had went to go stay with some friends in town. After all that work, preparing since almost a week, nothing to do but sit and wait for the storm to come. We still had power, and it went out for good around 7:30 that night. We decided to go to bed early so that we could get what little sleep we could, and we did sleep for a few hours in the actual house on Saturday night. Now it's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. It's raining and the wind is getting super severe, so we come out of this door and we go into the shed with the dogs on leashes and get everybody settled down and try to get a little bit more sleep. That did not happen. That night was one of the scariest nights I have ever had in a hurricane situation in Central Florida. Saturday night, the storm came and it was insane. The wind blew and the shed was rocking back and forth. And there was one point where we looked at each other and said, maybe we should have evacuated. Thankfully, the storm was over, and at 5 a.m. we came outside. The eye blew over around 5:30 and kept going. We had about an hour with the eye. During that hour, we got up and started inspecting the properties and realized that our neighbor here had a tree that had blown over into their house. It had scraped off their front shed, and they are not elderly, but kind of older. So we immediately ran over, knocked on the door, pounding, are you guys okay? They were all right. And Mr. B got his Jeep and came over and pulled the tree off of their house until we could get to some sort of safety so that they were okay. We made sure they were okay. The back half of the storm was coming. We got the right front quadrant of that storm, strongest winds, most rain. It was really crazy. We were outside during the eye, just making sure everyone was all right. The dogs got to go pee real quick. And then it was back into the shed, and the storm finally finished around noon. When we came out, double-checked again on our neighbors to make sure that they were all right. Mr. B and the neighbor went and cut away part of this tree, so at least if some emergency vehicle had to get through, they could. This was the view from the other side of the road. There were trees down everywhere. Important thing to remember about the power being out and trees being down is if they are down on electricity wires, do not touch them and do not go near them. This was the scene across the street from our house. The trees that Mr. B, my older son, and eventually his dad came over and helped us with tree work, they were all far away from any power lines. Most of the people in the Ocala National Forest are workers, construction workers, and people who know how to use tools, chainsaws. Most of them have large trucks, jeeps, and other vehicles, and we were clearing our own roads and making sure that emergency vehicles could get through. We know better than to wait for crews to come and take these trees away because we're last in line. The people in town get their trees taken off first. We basically spent the next 2 days hauling trees, hauling limbs, hauling brush, and making sure that our neighbors were okay. My grapevine was crushed by a tree, and I was so sad. The air was super unstable after the hurricane. This tree fell over a couple days after the actual hurricane because we had an afternoon storm pop up that spawned tornadoes in other areas of the forest. There were strong winds, and this tree just fell right over. Here's Mr. B taking a little break and trying to get some cell phone service. We were updating our voicemail messages outgoing, oftentimes hour by hour, so that people out of state could call us and know that we were okay. That's a little trick to keep in your back pocket for the future. If you update your voicemail message, even if the cell phone service is spotty or non-existent, people calling in will still hear an updated voicemail. Cell phone service was restored on Thursday, September 14th, but there was still no power. We hung out a lot outside with the dogs, trying to stay cool. The air was breezy and very humid, but it wasn't completely intolerable. Friday, September 15th, the power came back on at the doctor's office where I worked. My boss texted me and asked if I would like to come in and do a day of cleanup around that office and enjoy some AC. There were frogs everywhere, huge frogs. They were everywhere. So we decided to make up some fried frog's legs, and we took some of the green tomatoes from the garden and made some fried green tomatoes for dinner on Saturday night. Saturday night, Mr. Biggs and I had set up to watch a movie into the shed, and we were getting ready to go to bed, and the power came back on. What a blessing. We were so happy to be able to sleep in our own beds after a week. Everyone went back to work on Monday. We had power and water and showers. It was amazing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. Are you ready for hurricane season 2022? Tornadoes or whatever comes next? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you again, and remember everybody, I'd rather be a year early than a day late.